Seats to Streets, a podcast for pastors doing missions better. Today, J.R. Horn and Brian Gorman will begin to shine light upon 4 different focus types of people and how to better communicate and improve your work life, mission, and day-to-day conversation. Brought to you by Pioneer Bible Translators. Find out how you can do more for the mission at seatstostreets.com and pioneerbible.org.
Hey, welcome to this edition of the Seats to Streets podcast. I'm your host, J.R. Horn, and that's co-host Brian Gorman over there. Last time I checked, I think it's still spelt that way, although some of his elementary school friends would have called him Brain or spelt it Brain. That's not embarrassing at all, is it, Brian?
Not bothered by it at all, actually. It doesn't phase it. It seems appropriate. So.
We are in the middle of this awesome series about the 4 focuses, what it is to focus with someone in their direction with how God has made them in order to connect with them and communicate with them in such a way that is greater than being able to know any personality type or Enneagram or anything like that. This is a teaching that Brian has created, and it's so fantastic. We want to make sure that you have it so that you can utilize it. If you haven't had a chance, go back and start from the beginning. Listen to the overview, then go through power focus. Because today we're going to be talking about plan focused. And as a person who is not a plan focused person, this one might be the hardest for me to communicate with, be in conversation with, and interact with. So, Brian, what is a plan-focused individual? Give us an understanding of what plan-focused is.
The plan-focused individual is the person who finds a sense of peace and security by making a plan, a structure, and they're the person who makes the list about making a list. They make a list of the lists they need to make, and then they check off the boxes on the list, and they feel like the day was a tremendous success. They're exceptionally valuable to have on your team because these are the people that actually are going to get things done.
True.
But there also can be a real struggle on a team because they're the first to object. They're the primary naysayers of anything that's going on because they're immediately going to see all of the reasons why your plan isn't thought out or what you haven't considered. So as a result of it, they tend to be very negatively minded, but it's important to recognize that these are the people that if you get these people on your team with you, they get things done. And they're tremendously wise at how they go about it.
I'm already overwhelmed and just shaking because you said lists, and I have to have a list to make my list. Might need a minute here. So
I think these are the easier people to spot, in all honesty.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
easier people to spot, easier ones to nail down to go definitively. You are a plan-focused individual. I know when I've worked with churches to be able to help them through an ideal hiring process, to walk them through what does it look like to walk candidates through an ideal interview process so that we can ask the right questions the right way and at the right time so that we don't have any overlap of questions, anything like that. I can tell from the resume if they're a plan-focused individual.
Oh, yeah.
Not a problem. I mean, it is so detailed, laid out. The spacing, it's as if they've taken a ruler and made sure that, if this is supposed to be over here and all the way down the page is supposed to line up, it lines up perfectly. So we're talking about some visual cues. We're talking about being able to read a person to see if they're a planned, focused individual. Well, Brian, what does a planned, focused person look like?
They look put together. That's the cleanest way to understand it is they look put together. What they're wearing is intentional. They are going to typically be muted colors. Everything works as one. This is the person whose hair is usually done a very specific way, whose clothing tends to, in a lot of ways, it tends to fit the right way. They're very easy to see for that reason. Now, easiest way to see is just look around. If you see around them that like everything is in order. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be piles. It just means that there's a purpose for each pile. But oftentimes these people are really fascinating to me. Like, I can't fathom this, but these are the people that pull out the work they're going to get done that day. They get done the work for that day. They put the rest of the work away and they're done. I know someone, I walked into their barn where they kept all their tools, and every
Mhm.
tool was on a pegboard and every tool was outlined in a Sharpie marker, in a
Yep.
permanent marker, so that if anyone
Know where that
borrowed
one
the tool,
goes.
they knew exactly where to put the tool back. This is the
Mhm.
person who will loan you the tool, but tell you, please don't put it back. Just leave it in this one place and I will put it back. Everything in their life has order. When you get in their
Yep.
car, it always has that freshly detailed sort of look, right? And there are systems to everything they're doing. They're writing everything down. Their notebooks are cleaner. Like,
Yep.
you know these people. That
Yep.
you know these people.
These are the people that will buy the practical car over the sports car.
Quite often. And when they buy the sports car, they buy the practical sports car,
Yep. The
right? Like,
V6.
you and I have a good friend who loves Corvettes, and yet when they had the chance to buy a Corvette, bought the Camaro convertible instead,
Mhm.
and there were practical reasons for that decision, right? It's just
Mhm.
kind of the way in which they go about functioning, and that is just that format.
Yep.
Yeah, so
If
there's a
you
lot of people who fall into this, but that's just when you see them, they're easy to pick out because they just look like they're put together.
Yep. If you subscribe to Consumer Reports, you're probably a plan focused person.
Yes.
If you have a friend who has a Consumer Reports account and you call them to get their opinion and you solely base your purchase off their first and second opinion, that friend is probably a plan focused friend, and that's
Yeah.
totally fine. We all have those friends. We need them, especially me, since I'm not a plan focused friend. So we have a visual cue of what to look for when someone walks into the room of a plan focused individual, or walking and standing up on a stage and preaching a sermon on a Sunday. We can kind of look out to the crowd and be able to determine some plan focused people. But Brian, what if we're in a conversation? What sort of words would a planned focused person use that we can start to pick up on?
So some of them are paying attention. You have these questions: the who, what, when, where, why, how, right? When you're dealing with a plan focused person, the how is key, right? The when is key, and sometimes the where. Uh,
Hmm.
the where may matter because there's certain places they just don't want to go, but
Right.
but they ultimately want to know what's the what. Have you thought about how we're going to get there, or when we need to be there by? That's what this person wants to know. They want to know the plan, and so when they talk, they're going to tend to ask those questions more than anything else. Um,
Right.
Now, what's interesting about a plan person is it's going to really come down a lot of ways to their kind of their secondary, but a plan person will either be exceptionally quiet, um, oftentimes exceptionally quiet, or once they start talking, they're really hard to stop. They
Right.
won't start the talk, but once they start, they will, because they are working through every detail of what has
Hmm.
to be done, and so it's hard to get them to go, hey, this part doesn't matter. Um,
Right.
because
Right.
it does for them. But oftentimes they're going to sit, they're going to be very quiet and just take in the information, take in the information, take in the information. Worst part about that is usually they have the right answer, but if you didn't ask them directly, they won't give it to you.
Hmm.
Like, they'll
Yeah.
just almost like, well, at least I know. Um, but that's why it's important to engage these people well on your team. Very valuable in a lot of ways for that reason. But these are the questions they're going to ask. This is why if you look at a power focused person, you may ask them a question such as, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think about that?" Um, but if you're going to talk to a plan focused person, you're going to ask them, "How do you think we can go about that? Will
Hmm.
that plan work?"
Hmm.
Right? Those are the questions you're going to want to ask them because that's what they're doing in their own head.
Yep. Very linear. You can't get to C without starting at A and going through B. That's just the way it is. So when you hear someone laying out a map, or mapping out their conversation, and it is very linear, if you ask a plan focused person about their vacation, 9 times out of 10 they're going to give you a report on how they got there, the fuel economy, the deal they got on their meal,
Yeah.
or something of that matter, because that is extremely important to them, and they feel the need that they would want to share that when you ask them the question about your vacation. So we
Yeah.
understand what they would wear. We kind of understand some words to to pick out and to kind of listen for, but we all know that there is uh, a way we can broadcast in such a way in a conversation that we can pick up as well. So not so specifically the words, but how does a plan focused person come across in a conversation with someone?
Our plan focused people are going to hate what I'm about to say. Power focused people don't mind that they are dismissive when they speak. But plan focused people hate the reality, the factual reality that they are condescending when they speak.
Hmm. Yeah.
The tone is always a question to see if you really thought through what
If
you're
you
going to do
Yeah, if your
there.
plan has, yep.
Have you thought about what's after that? Right. The tone is condescending. They don't mean to be. And part of it's because they ask questions after questions after questions, and they're
Hmm.
not really doing it because they doubt you. They're doing it because they need the answers to these questions, and they want to get on board with you, but they can't get on board until all of the safety measures have been checked. And so they ask all of these questions, and if they're not asking you out loud, they're asking in their own head. But
Hmm.
when they talk, it is very common for them to come across condescending, right?
Yep.
Which, this is just a general, sidelight rule to this. um, like if you ask someone the question why is a defensive based question. Right. If I sit there and go, JR, why is the back of your room blue? Right.
Hmm.
There's a feel like somehow you're on the defensive now to defend the back
Yep.
of the room.
Yep.
Right. And yet these plan focused people ask why a lot. It's
Hmm.
really a question. If you're going to talk to people, it's a question you should really take out of your vocabulary. You'll get better and clearer answers from people if you stop using the question why.
Hmm.
Um, it would be like me saying, what were you thinking? Even though what I
Yeah.
may really want to know the answer to is, what were you thinking? Tell me your thought process here,
Yep.
right? But we all know that phrase, what were you thinking, sounds condescending. And plan focused people, when they talk, their tone in normal
Yep.
conversation is condescending.
Yeah. It when a plan focused person is talking with a power focused person, the power focused person is telling them this idea that they have. The plan focused person is going to ask, well, what is your plan? What is your strategy to accomplish it? The power focused person would look at him and say, what does that matter? This is what we're going to go do, and will dismiss
Mhm.
and walk away.
Yeah.
Now, if a people focused person or a play focused person walks up and is talking with a plan focused person, I'm a play focused person. If I'm going and to talk to a plan focused person, the minute they don't latch on to the awesomeness of this grand shiny plan with the fireworks, I just I have a tendency to fall apart. Like, what do you mean you don't think this is cool? If you don't think this is cool, you don't like me. Why don't you like me? I
Right.
thought we were friends, and it is woo, off the hill.
Yeah.
It's just that's just the unintentional nature of the beast when it comes with a plan focused person. And I've noticed this: if you're a plan focused person, oftentimes you speak with your face a lot.
Hmm.
There's the squinty eyes. When
Yeah.
I tell you my plan, you're like, because you're already thinking, there's no way that he'll be able to do that,
Yeah.
because he's got to do this. That's
Tiny detail. When you're talking to someone and they're sharing an idea, one of the nicest things you can do for them is lift your head up and slightly to the left.
hmm
Is
yep.
this, and lift your eyebrows up, is a different look than this. The moment I
hmm
drop my chin, it changes the tone. But here's the reason I want you to know this information. That plan focused person you're engaging with, when they ask that condescending question, they don't mean to be condescending. The
hmm
power focused person doesn't mean to be dismissive. It's
Right.
the way in which they engage with others, when their mind needs a plan,
hmm
right? Um, and and the reality is, as we mentioned before, we kind of move between these four. You're going to have a dominant and a secondary, but there are times in your life where you're going to be another one of these. Even the one that you may be the furthest from, on occasion, you'll become that. And it's valuable for us as leaders to recognize, that's the place that our people are. Let's really think about that from perspective of the missionary who is used to being overseas, who is now back at your church for a weekend. Is overseas, they're in their comfort zone. So they may be the power focused person. They may be the plan focused person when they're over there, right? They may be one of those others, but now they're not in their normal comfort zone, and it doesn't quite work because they can't really be them in that setting. I was talking to a church recently who's looking to hire a new lead minister, and they were asking a question about, do we bring them in for a trial sermon? Now, my personal answer to that was no, because you really don't. Now you can see them in their natural element by watching all their previous sermons online. For the last few years, you can get that. But to put them in front of your church, they're not going to be in their natural element yet. And so it's not going to be a good representation of who they're going to be week in and week out.
Right.
But that's part of it. Was we shift and adjust based upon this. So if you're dealing with someone who is acting condescending, and then you find that they're asking you questions, I'm asking you to shift your mindset to go, oh, they're not belittling me. They're not being condescending to me. They're just plan focused right now. And I want to focus with them on the plan as well.
Yeah. As a play person, I need plan people in my life, because wow, do they show me the missteps in my plan that I never saw. So I try not to take it condescending now. I try to take it as loving, as going, oh, thank you. Because I'm so focused on this play outcome that I need to do this in order to get there. So
it's
Brian,
hard to process, but if they don't care about you, they won't ask.
Exactly. That's key. So we got an idea of what someone would look like, about how they would come across in conversation, specific words that they would use, but that's all we're all receiving. We're all receiving that. So let's turn the tides to where now we're going to communicate to a plan focused person. How should I go about communicating to a plan focused person?
So to a plan focused person, there are three important components. And I say that because almost every plan based person I've ever met wants 3 steps. So here they are: efficiency, clarity, and expectations. It's that simple. It's efficiency based. You have to have exceptional clarity, and you have to be able to define the expectation. If you can do those 3 things, then you're in a good place with them. This doesn't work as well with some of the other focuses. But if someone is in a plan focused base, efficiency, clarity, and defined expectations are the key. So let's talk about that from perspective of the hardest part, right? Giving, adjusting feedback. Adjusting feedback. When you have to give adjusting feedback to that type of focus, you need to be able to ask yourself some questions before you do it, so that you can say, hey, can I share something with you?
Right.
When you, and you're going to notice this through everything we're going to say, can I share something? Do you have a minute? Whatever it may be. When you do this, it creates this result. That's going to be the steps in feedback, positive and adjusting, every single time. But let me show you the example. Now, let's say that the beaver said in a meeting, the beaver, that's another one of those tribalism terms. Because sometimes they're called that. Sometimes they're called sanguine, I think. They have these other phrases. That's why the focus makes so much more sense for people. If you get this plan-focused person sitting in a meeting and they are just shooting down every idea that comes in. Right. Which is not uncommon. They're really good at shooting holes. That's what you want them to be able to do.
Yeah, but if see them really good.
If they're just negative about everything, right? Negative about everything, then in an individual environment, hey, can I share something with you? In today's meeting, you shot down 5 consecutive ideas as we were brainstorming the most effective plan. By shooting down those 5 ideas, that kept us from getting to a more defined answer, because it caused everyone else to be afraid to bring up a point that we could then improve upon. So
Right.
because of that, in the future, as we have a brainstorming meeting, it would be beneficial for you and the team if you remained quiet until all of the brainstorming is out and then begin to speak into what you see as the most beneficial plans.
Right.
So now
Right.
notice that's a lot longer than I would normally go with another person. And it sounds kind of cold and calculated. But the person who receives a plan-focused method of communication, that kind of statement right there, that resonates because I showed them you did it 5 times. I can't say,
Right.
hey, you kept shooting down everybody's ideas. No, that's not helpful. You shot
'Cause you
down
got to quantify it.
5 ideas, right?
Yeah.
As a result of, so I've got to be a very efficiency based. I'm rationale. We're talking about effectiveness, talking about the
Yep.
number, right? I need to over clarify what took place. You did this, and when you did this, here's how it hurt the effectiveness
Right.
of the team.
Right.
And so this is the defined way I need that to change in the future.
Right.
If you do the defined way that needs to change in the future with a play-focused person or a power-focused person, the play-focused person may or may not have heard you anyway. And the power-focused person, there is the potential, depending upon the health of the individual you're dealing with, there's the potential that they almost do it out of spite.
Right.
And so you got to be a little careful. But with the plan-focused person, you told me what to do. I did what you told me to do. Therefore, we must be good.
Mhm.
And so I always find it funny if I'm being given feedback from a plan-based person because they will give me feedback in that same way. It'll be this overwhelming clarity. They'll try to explain way too much,
Right.
at which point I was lost partway in there. And then they're going to tell me this is the exact way you have to fix it. And my brain goes, yeah, but that's not going to get you the result you want.
Right.
This is a common problem, by the way, with plan-focused people is they're great at building out a plan. They are not great at thinking of the end game.
True.
And so you need the power person to go, here's the end result we have to get to. Does
Right.
this plan get to that result? And oftentimes plan-based people are focused on the present
Well,
right now. So that's why adjusting feedback to them can be quite beneficial, but it has to be efficiency-based, over-clarified, and the expectation has to be clear.
So, one adjusting feedback I would give to anyone is that if you're a plan-focused person, you being in a brainstorming meeting is a recipe for disaster. You're
Yes.
not a brainstormer. It doesn't work. You're not able to pop it off just immediately from the top of your head. Your play-focused people and your power-focused people will absolutely just start peppering the board, and you'll be so focused on seeing how one is better than the other, or how this has so many complicated steps in it that needs to be simplified, or wow, I don't even know how we could even achieve this because of this, and this, that you'll negate your ability to be a part of a brainstorming session. So if you find yourself in brainstorming sessions and you are just miserable, you may have plan focused tendencies that you should have someone loving to give you some adjusting feedback on how to be a part of that. So that's adjusting feedback, Brian. But how would you give positive feedback? Right? We got the idea of adjusting, but what does positive feedback, positive reinforcement? How do we communicate that to a plan focused person?
The exact same process, efficiency based, over clarify, and state the expectation again, which sounds a little strange, but they want to know the specific of what took place. If I tell someone who's a plan focused person, hey, that's a nice outfit, I actually might have made their world more stressful,
Right?
because I didn't point out what was nice about the outfit so they could repeat it. Right. Hey, great job in that meeting today. Oh, they're going to spend time doing one of two things, either filling in the blank on their own opinion as to what they thought went well, which may or may not have been what it really was, or they're going to stress over what it was. So, one of my close friends who's a financial person, she says that if there's too much money in the bank, she stresses, like, what do we do with all this? And if there's not enough, she stresses because there's not enough. And she just paces. I'm like, well, you're getting your steps in. That's a bonus.
Yeah, for sure.
And in that, when you give positive feedback, to be able to say to that plan-focused person, hey, you got a second? In the meeting today, I know that was a tough one for you because it was a brainstorming meeting and all these ideas came in. But at the end of it, you came up with the 2 or 3 that you thought were the most feasible for us to accomplish in the time frame we have.
Yep.
That helped us move the ball so far forward today because we didn't waste our time on the ones that didn't matter. Right. That's that sort of thing. I'll tell you one that a strange but a very encouraging positive feedback to someone who is plan focused. Hey, you got a second? At the beginning of the meeting, we always take 5 minutes just to kind of connect with one another, and it was so valuable how you shared a few aspects of your week with the team, because it allowed them to be more connected to you so we could have a more efficient and effective meeting moving forward.
Right.
That we're dealing with effectiveness, numbers, rationale, clarify, and being able to talk about how that plays out in the future. That's positive feedback to them. And it means so much when these things that almost the neuroses of who they are is valued.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why it's so key.
It's so hard for a plan-focused person to actually accept feedback because they have a continuous improvement mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a plan-focused person and someone is legitimately trying to give you positive feedback, try to take that for what they're doing and understand that sure, you got 90% of the way there on the way you wanted to. Man, at 10%, I know you're going to labor over that, but take the feedback. It's extremely hard because of this continuous improvement. There's something to do better, or we could have went a different route. So accepting the feedback as a plan-focused person can be extremely tough at times. So
yeah, which is why if you're giving feedback to that positive feedback to that plan-focused person, you don't do this with a lot of the others, and we can go into why, but we're not going to do all that. But here's one thing you would do with a plan-focused person that you would not do anywhere near as often, and that is telling the plan-focused person how to get more of that same result in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because that allows them to come out of well, what part did I do right? What part did I do wrong? I thought I kind of messed up this. I was hoping, and it moved them immediately out of that. It's actually a method of complimenting people that's called a push-pull system, but it's kind of it works really well with plan-focused people to go, you did this really well, man. I would love to see even more of that from you in the future. Oh, I can do that, and they go.
Yeah, it's definitive. I understand what you're asking me to do. So
yeah.
We really hope that this was impactful for you, especially if you're a minister of a church, or you're a small business owner, or you're a missionary overseas and you're working with a group of people in a completely different culture. And that we really hope that you're able to see these focuses in your area, and to be able to equip you with the ability to focus with that person in their direction, in order to be able to show extreme care and lovingness toward them as you either walk beside them or lead them, whatever your context is. So if you haven't already, go ahead and start from the beginning, or if you've missed one, be sure to go back and get last week's episode about the power focused person, because next week we're going to jump down into the play focused person. It's our time, baby. It's so fun. I can't wait. And the power guy over there is like, it's cute. You just have your party over there in your window by yourself.
Gonna give you a ball of yarn to keep yourself focused, and we'll be fine.
Have a blast. Would have a blast. So come back in next week. We're going to talk more about the 4 focuses. We're going to talk about the play focused people, and we'll see y'all next week. Take care.
Later.
Thank you for joining us today. If you wish to connect with the hosts or other listeners, please reach out at seatstostreets.com. We thank you for your listenership and hope you enjoyed.